They brought justice to the screen, but their real lives were filled with stories far more tragic than any courtroom drama. Matlock, 1986 to 1995, was a beloved legal series led by the iconic Andy Griffith and supported by a cast of unforgettable characters. Yet behind the scenes, several of these talented actors have since passed away, some quietly, others under heartbreaking circumstances. From sudden illnesses to long battles with personal demons, their deaths left a lasting void. Join us as we look back on the stars of Matlock who are no longer with us and uncover the often untold tragedies behind their final days. Andy Griffith was born on June 1st, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, and brought to life the role of Ben Matlock in 1986 at the age of 60. He portrayed Matlock as a wily, brilliant Southern defense attorney who wore seersucker suits and solved murders with meticulous precision. With a mix of charm, wit, and tenacity, Griffith made the character an enduring icon of TV justice. Audiences adored his slow Southern drawl and no-nonsense sense of fairness, but few knew the dark undercurrents of the man behind the role. Griffith's childhood was soaked in poverty and loneliness. He grew up in a home without a bathroom, slept in a dresser drawer as a baby, and was bullied at school for his awkwardness and stutter. Humiliation and isolation became familiar companions, shaping a personality that sought control and validation. His early career included triumphs in music and television, yet scandal always lingered just outside public view. His first marriage to Barbara Edwards collapsed amid long-standing rumors of emotional manipulation and rumored extramarital affairs. Though Griffith was never embroiled in a public scandal, his backstage persona was reportedly dictatorial. He clashed with co-stars and directors and was known for his quick temper and controlling behavior. On Matlock, production insiders claimed he was difficult, often isolating himself, demanding rewrites, and refusing to rehearse with the cast. His darkest professional moment came in 1970 with the show The Headmaster, a vanity project that failed miserably and shattered his confidence for years. He battled Guillain-Barré syndrome in the 1980s, suffering temporary paralysis, but concealed his frailty from the public. His second marriage to Cindy Knight brought some peace, but he remained estranged from his adopted son, Sam, whose struggle with alcoholism and eventual death in 1996 was a source of immense private pain. Griffith died suddenly on July 3, 2012, at his home on Roanoke Island from a heart attack at the age of 86. In a bizarre twist, he was buried within 5 hours of his death in a secretive ceremony, fueling speculation among fans and the media. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $25 million, amassed through his roles, music royalties, and shrewd real estate investments in North Carolina. David Froman was born on December 31, 1938, and took on the role of Lieutenant Bob Brooks in Matlock in 1986, when he was 48 years old. On screen, Brooks was the ever-composed law enforcement liaison, a loyal and rational figure who helped Matlock piece together mysteries with a calm presence that grounded the courtroom drama. To viewers, he was the moral straight man in a chaotic legal landscape. Yet David Froman's own story, hidden behind his steady demeanor, was scarred with disappointments and inner torment. Born into poverty in Oklahoma, he lost his father to suicide when he was a child and was raised by a mother who juggled multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. As a teenager, he was bullied relentlessly for his stutter and reclusive behavior, masking his pain through theater while concealing a mounting depression that would linger for decades. Froman's career never reached leading man status, and it ate away at him. He auditioned for over 200 roles before Matlock, being told repeatedly he was too average-looking for Hollywood. During the late 1970s, he quietly suffered a nervous breakdown following the sudden cancellation of a series he had pinned his hopes on. There were whispered rumors of a violent outburst on set in 1980 that allegedly led to a temporary blacklisting, an incident erased from most public records, but remembered bitterly by a few industry insiders. Though married, his relationship was tested by his long periods of unemployment, his heavy drinking, and an alleged emotional affair with a student when he returned to teaching. Friends claimed he never fully recovered from the humiliation of being cast aside in Hollywood. After Matlock, he returned to Oklahoma, retreating into community theater and academia, a modest life far from the celebrity spotlight. David Froman died of cancer on February 8, 2010, at the age of 71 in Miami, Oklahoma. His estate was minimal, a small house, a used car, and meager savings. His net worth was estimated to be under $500,000 at the time of his death, a sobering reality for a man once seen on millions of televisions. Clarence Gillyard Jr. was born on December 24, 1955, in Moses Lake, Washington, and joined the cast of Matlock in 1989 at the age of 34, portraying Conrad McMasters. As Matlock's loyal and athletic private investigator, his role required physicality, cleverness, and emotional sincerity, traits Gillyard delivered convincingly on screen. The character quickly became a fan favorite for his unwavering loyalty and charm. Off-screen, however, Gilliard's life was marked by turmoil and secrets he later only partially disclosed. Raised in a strict military family, he moved frequently and struggled to find a sense of identity, leading to deep-rooted insecurity and a need for approval. Though he found early success in films like Top Gun and Die Hard, he privately battled addiction to drugs, alcohol, and sex, problems he admitted later in life during religious interviews but often minimized. In Hollywood, whispers circulated about his erratic behavior and mood swings on set. One former co-star accused him, off the record, of emotional volatility and passive-aggressive manipulation during production. His marriage to Catherine Dutko ended in divorce, allegedly following years of infidelity and growing detachment. The separation was bitter and left him emotionally drained. He remarried Elena Castillo, but one of his children from his first marriage became estranged after a series of legal troubles, which Clarence was rumored to have covered up. Perhaps his most controversial career decision was walking away from fame at his peak to study theology, a move that baffled agents and alienated producers. Some saw it as a courageous spiritual shift. Others viewed it as a desperate escape from Hollywood's rejection. He resurfaced years later as a theater professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Beloved by students but haunted by the ghosts of his past. He was reportedly suffering from an undisclosed long-term illness in his final years, which culminated in his death on November 28, 2022, at age 66. He passed away quietly in Las Vegas, surrounded by only a few close family members. His estate, modest by celebrity standards, included a Las Vegas home, a teaching pension, and residuals from past shows, totaling an estimated $5 million. Don Knotts was born on July 21, 1924, and joined Matlock in 1988 at the age of 64, portraying Les Calhoun, the oddball neighbor with a heart of gold. Les was a gentle, often bewildered presence, whose peculiar habits and cheerful banter provided a sharp contrast to the show's legal drama. Audiences adored him for bringing warmth and comic relief, but behind Knotts' iconic smile lay a lifetime of emotional scars. Raised in grinding poverty during the Great Depression, his father, a paranoid schizophrenic, once held a knife to his throat when Don was just a child. Don developed deep-seated anxiety and severe hypochondria that plagued him for most of his life, forcing him to seek psychiatric help during his Broadway years. Despite his television fame, Knotts was notoriously insecure and obsessed with health, checking into hospitals over minor symptoms. Professionally, he was considered difficult, demanding script control, and often lashed out at directors over minor creative disagreements. His darkest career moment came in the mid-70s when NBC abruptly dropped his contract, and his attempt to lead a serious dramatic film flopped critically and commercially, nearly ending his career. His personal life was equally rocky. His 2 marriages ended in divorce, and his strained relationship with his daughter Karen was marred by years of distance and emotional detachment. He died on February 24, 2006, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles from complications of lung cancer at the age of 81. Despite his inner chaos, he left behind an estate valued at approximately $20 million, including real estate holdings in Los Angeles and residuals from reruns that continue to air globally. His legacy, though beloved by fans, was one of a tortured genius who laughed to keep from crying. Alexander Zale, born Jamil Zakai on March 18, 1931, played Judge Michael Alden in Matlock between 1990 and 1992, debuting in the role at 59. His character was curt, cerebral, and emotionally guarded, mirroring the man himself. Zale's path from Baghdad to Hollywood was paved with tragedy. Born into a Jewish family during a period of growing anti-Semitic unrest, Zale survived the 1941 Farhud pogrom in Iraq, during which his uncle was murdered and his family fled in secrecy to the U.S. Arriving in Brooklyn as refugees, he lived in squalid housing, and his early life was marked by hunger, language barriers, and trauma-induced mutism. Despite a successful theater career in New York, Zale was blacklisted briefly in the McCarthy era due to suspected communist ties through an ex-girlfriend. His later years in Hollywood were filled with resentment. Colleagues recalled his paranoia and unwillingness to socialize. One casting director accused him of sabotaging co-stars by intentionally upstaging them on camera. Zale remained unmarried throughout his life, despite rumors of a long, obsessive entanglement with a male director that ended in violence and a restraining order in the late 80s. He never reconciled with his only brother, a businessman in Israel who publicly denounced Zale's Western hedonism. As his health declined due to Parkinson's, he became reclusive, refusing interviews and refusing visits, even from close friends. He died on August 28, 2020, at age 89, in a hospice in Los Angeles. His estate, managed by a distant niece, revealed assets totaling only $480,000, mostly from property bought decades earlier in a small pension. Though he was respected by some in the industry, his final years were spent in bitter isolation, a forgotten figure from a bygone era of TV law dramas. Warren Frost was born on June 5, 1925, and joined the cast of Matlock in 1991 as Billy Lewis at the age of 66. On screen, he was the quintessential wise elder, soft-spoken, dependable, and always a step ahead in emotional intelligence. The audience adored him for his gentle gravitas and quiet moral compass. But behind this serene facade was a complex and often contradictory man. Raised in Newburyport, Massachusetts, Warren came from a strict military household where emotion was seen as weakness. His father, a Navy officer, was notoriously cold and withheld affection, a trait Warren would later echo in his parenting. After serving in World War II, he pursued academia and theater, but his ambition often bordered on arrogance. While publicly seen as an intellectual and mentor, several students later described him as domineering and manipulative behind closed doors. His acting career remained stagnant for decades, and resentment brewed, especially as he watched former protégés eclipse him in fame. His big break in Twin Peaks, ironically crafted by his own son, Mark Frost, was rumored to cause behind-the-scenes friction. Some cast members quietly criticized his smugness and nepotistic arrival on set. Though never publicly accused, there were hushed conversations about inappropriate comments made during his time as a professor in Minnesota, leading to at least one private settlement with the university in the 1980s. His marriage endured, but only on paper. His wife reportedly lived separately for several years, and his daughter disclosed in a memoir draft, never published, that he emotionally abandoned the family during his theater obsession in the 60s. Warren's health declined sharply in the 2000s, and though he stayed out of the spotlight, his final years were marked by isolation and regret. He died on February 17, 2017, in Middlebury, Vermont, at the age of 91 after a prolonged illness. At the time of his death, his estate was valued between $1.8 and $2.3 million, largely due to Twin Peaks royalties, real estate, and investments. Alan Fudge was born on February 27, 1944 in Wichita, Kansas, and portrayed the character of Jack Sylvester in Matlock in 1987, when he was 43 years old. His character exuded professionalism, serious, efficient, and a pillar of reason in a show filled with eccentric suspects and emotional trials. Audiences trusted his calm presence, much like they did in dozens of other roles he played throughout his decades-long career. But Alan Fudge's own journey was far more volatile. The son of an alcoholic jazz pianist and a mother who reportedly vanished from his life when he was only 10, Fudge grew up in a foster system that cycled him through multiple homes. He turned to acting in high school not out of joy, but desperation, to mask the shame of being unwanted. His rise in Hollywood was slow and pockmarked by rejection. While he landed dozens of roles, he was frequently typecast as the background bureaucrat or the second-tier villain. And in interviews, he confessed to deep insecurities about his lack of star power. He was briefly blacklisted in the 1980s after an explosive argument on set with a major producer, allegedly over creative differences. But insiders hinted that Fudge had developed a reputation for passive-aggressive behavior, mood swings, and substance use. He never spoke publicly about it, but several former colleagues suspected alcohol dependency during the late 80s. His marriage was outwardly stable, yet behind closed doors, friends noted periods of separation and long silences between him and his wife. Their only daughter reportedly moved away from the industry and had limited contact with him after college. His greatest professional regret was being passed over for a leading role in a Spielberg project after nearly securing it, something he reportedly never got over. In his later years, he quietly battled both lung and liver cancer, illnesses worsened by decades of chain smoking and stress. Alan Fudge died on October 10, 2011, in Los Angeles at the age of 67, his name largely forgotten outside of hardcore TV buffs. His estate, carefully maintained by his wife, was valued between $1 to $2 million, built steadily through residuals, small film roles, and pension funds from actors' unions. Jason Wingreen was born on October 9, 1920, and began playing Judge Arthur Beaumont in Matlock in 1987 when he was 67 years old. His character was the embodiment of courtroom dignity, measured, patient, and respected. He offered gravitas to every scene he entered, and his performance made Judge Beaumont a steady moral compass in the show's often chaotic legal battles. But off-screen, Jason's life was marked by invisibility, rejection, and resentment. Born to Jewish immigrants in Brooklyn, he grew up during the Great Depression, often going to bed hungry. He was mocked for his accent and heritage, leading him to suppress his roots and change his speaking style to blend in. Though trained at Brooklyn College and later the Actors Studio, he was constantly passed over for leading roles due to his looks and name, which casting agents considered too ethnic. The most public slight came when he was cast as the original voice of Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back. George Lucas later replaced his voice without credit or warning, using another actor for the re-releases. Jason was devastated, calling it a violation of artistic ownership in an interview few ever read. Behind the scenes, Wingreen was known to hold grudges. Fellow actors described him as cold, clinical, and impossible to please, and producers complained about his rigid, often confrontational manner. He also had a reputation for storming off sets if he felt disrespected. His personal life, though private, wasn't without turbulence. He married once in the 1940s, but separated quietly, never remarrying. Rumors circulated about a long-term affair with a married Hollywood executive, but nothing was confirmed. He had one son, who reportedly moved overseas and rarely spoke to him. In the late 90s, he left acting abruptly, not just to care for his wife, as public statements claimed, but also due to increasing conflicts with network executives. Jason died on December 25, 2015, in Los Angeles at the age of 95, from natural causes. At the time of his death, he left behind an estate valued at approximately $10 million, including a modest home in the Hollywood Hills, voice residuals, and classic television royalties. Gregory Itzin was born on April 20, 1948, and appeared as Michael Fitzmaurice in Matlock in 1987 when he was 39 years old. His character was slick, educated, and morally complex, a political figure entangled in ethical ambiguities, foreshadowing his most iconic role as President Charles Logan in 24. Born into a conservative family in Washington, D.C., Itzin grew up in the shadow of a father who was a federal judge, stern, distant, and demanding. From an early age, Gregory was pressured to follow a traditional path, and his decision to pursue acting was seen as rebellion. Rejected from Juilliard, Itzin spent years bouncing between regional theaters, often working night jobs to survive. Despite his classical training, he was typecast early on as the villain, something he resented deeply. Industry insiders recall that Itzin could be obsessive, reportedly rewriting his own lines during rehearsals and clashing with directors who didn't meet his perfectionist standards. Though admired by peers for his discipline, others found him emotionally volatile and known to retreat into week-long silence when he felt disrespected. The darkest chapter in his career came when a Broadway revival he headlined in the 1990s closed abruptly after poor reviews. Itzin, devastated, reportedly considered leaving acting altogether and briefly checked into a wellness retreat to recover from what close friends described as a breakdown. His marriage to Judy Itzin appeared stable on the surface, but was allegedly strained by long separations and his obsession with work. He was a dedicated father, but admitted in interviews to being absent for entire chapters of his children's upbringing. In later years, he quietly battled health issues and kept his emergency surgery in 2022 a secret until it was too late. He died unexpectedly on July 8, 2022, at the age of 74 from complications during the procedure, shocking fans and colleagues. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated between $5 to $7 million, stemming from stage royalties, TV appearances, and a sprawling home in the Hollywood Hills. Terry Laughlin was born on April 7, 1944, and portrayed Judge Edwards in Matlock in 1993 at the age of 49. His character was a steady, impartial authority in the courtroom, projecting a calm demeanor that contrasted with Matlock's dramatic flair. Audiences appreciated his gravitas and his ability to deliver justice with an understated firmness. But behind that composed exterior, Terry's life was shaped by pain and buried trauma. Born into a broken home in post-war San Diego, his father, an alcoholic naval mechanic, abandoned the family when Terry was 6. Terry's mother raised him alone, scraping by on waitress wages. He was often bullied for his stutter, which he learned to hide behind impersonations and mimicry, a skill that eventually led to acting. Though he appeared in dozens of films and shows, Terry struggled for decades in the shadow of anonymity. He was dropped from key roles for being difficult on set, according to casting reports, and had an explosive temper when scenes were cut. One co-star recalled him being escorted off a production after an on-set outburst involving a broken prop and a bruised grip technician. His career never recovered from a disastrous audition for a leading role in LA Law. He showed up drunk, slurred his lines, and had to be removed. His personal life was equally stormy. He divorced twice. His second wife accused him of emotional abuse and absenteeism. His daughter became estranged from him in the 2000s, citing emotional manipulation in a leaked letter. Terry was diagnosed with COPD in his 60s and quietly battled it while still auditioning for minor roles. He died on June 27, 2017, at the age of 73 from complications related to the disease in Los Angeles. His estate included a modest condo, a 2003 Lexus, and residuals from reruns. His net worth was estimated under $600,000. Despite a long resume, Terry Laughlin left behind more questions than legacy, and no family attended his private cremation. Anita Corso was born on November 3, 1933, and joined Matlock in 1991 at the age of 54, portraying Judge Cynthia Justin. Her role was composed and judicially firm, embodying the type of calm legal authority that counterbalanced Ben Matlock's fiery courtroom style. Judge Justin was the kind of character viewers wished really existed in their legal system. Measured, intelligent, and uncompromising in her fairness. But behind the character's serenity was a woman with a life full of secrets and unresolved heartbreaks. Born in Hutchinson, Kansas, to a strict and emotionally distant family, Anita's early years were shadowed by constant judgment from a mother obsessed with appearances and a father who belittled her artistic interests. She learned early to smile through humiliation and retreat into books and imagination, hiding her sensitivity behind a veneer of control. Though she studied acting seriously at Northwestern and with Lee Strasberg, her career was plagued by near misses. She was typecast after The Andy Griffith Show and struggled to land meaningful lead roles afterward. Her rumored affair with Andy Griffith, which allegedly began during the show's early seasons, haunted her reputation. According to close sources, the relationship was fraught with emotional manipulation and power imbalances. Griffith, who was married at the time, reportedly discouraged Corso from pursuing other romantic partners and even allegedly pressured her to stay off projects that conflicted with his. She never married, and some believe she kept that silence out of loyalty or shame. Her friendships thinned in her final years as she battled cancer privately. She died on November 6, 1995, just 3 days after turning 62 in Studio City, California. Her estate was modestly comfortable, valued at approximately $3 million, including a West Hollywood home and residuals from syndication. Though publicly admired, many of her struggles remain buried beneath the polished image she carefully maintained. Her biggest role may have been the mask she wore off-screen. Ron Carabatsos was born on April 22, 1933, and portrayed Dave Christopher in Matlock in 1986 when he was 53 years old. His character was a no-nonsense blue-collar investigator, tough, intuitive, and deeply loyal to Matlock. His gritty realism came not from acting school, but from years on the streets. Carabatsos had served as a decorated homicide detective in Union City, New Jersey, before Hollywood came calling. That real-world experience gave him unmatched authenticity on screen, earning him steady roles in over 200 TV episodes and dozens of films. But Ron's childhood was scarred. Born into a struggling Greek-American household in Elizabeth, New Jersey, his early years were marked by financial hardship and violence. His father, a factory worker with a temper, was known for beatings that left deep emotional wounds. Ron internalized the pain, becoming emotionally distant and detached even in adulthood. In law enforcement, he was feared and respected, but also accused, though never officially charged, of using excessive force in at least 2 high-profile cases. After a controversial shooting in 1976, Carabatsos quietly retired from the force, and some insiders claimed he was pushed out to avoid litigation. In Hollywood, his imposing demeanor earned him tough guy roles, but he was notoriously difficult with directors, often refusing rewrites and openly criticizing co-stars he saw as phony. His biggest career letdown came when a leading role in Hill Street Blues fell through due to network politics, an event he described to friends as the real crime of my life. Privately, Carabatsos led a lonely existence. Though married briefly in the 1960s, the union ended in divorce after he was rumored to have had multiple affairs with women he met during cases. In later years, he suffered from diabetes and heart problems, but refused to slow down, appearing in minor roles until his death. He passed away on April 17, 2012, just 5 days shy of his 79th birthday, at a hospital in Burbank, California, from complications related to heart disease. His estate, including a modest house in the valley and residuals from syndicated crime dramas, was valued between $1 to $2 million. Marge Redmond was born on December 14, 1924, and joined Matlock in 1991 at the age of 67, portraying Mrs. McCardle, a quietly observant and empathetic figure who brought a touch of heart to the courtroom's otherwise rigid decorum. Her character functioned as a kind of moral compass, a grounding presence amidst the theatrics. Raised in Cleveland, in a staunchly Catholic working-class family, she endured a strict upbringing where artistic ambition was viewed as rebellion. Her early life was marked by emotional repression and disappointment. She suffered the loss of 2 younger siblings in a tragic house fire when she was just 10, an event she never spoke of publicly. Although she eventually found fame as Sister Jacqueline in The Flying Nun, Redmond's Hollywood career was riddled with quiet sabotage. Insiders whispered that she was blackballed from major roles after rejecting the sexual advances of a powerful network executive in the early 70s. A chain smoker with a sharp tongue and a fierce sense of independence, she became known in casting circles as difficult, not because of temperament, but because she refused to play submissive roles off camera. Her marriage to actor Jack Weston was deeply troubled. Though they stayed married for decades, friends said it was a Cold War with brief truces, marred by jealousy, infidelity, and resentment over Redmond's longer-lasting visibility. They never had children, something she later called her quiet punishment. After Weston's death, she grew reclusive, retreating from public life and struggling with hearing loss in periods of deep depression. Redmond passed away on February 10, 2020, at age 95 from natural causes, alone in a Los Angeles assisted living facility. Her estate was valued at approximately $2.5 million, mostly from careful investments and royalties from decades of TV work. Despite a career that once glowed with promise, her final years were spent largely forgotten by an industry she helped build, but never truly embraced her. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from Matlock who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.